Hello, everyone, and welcome to the OpenStudios program of Art Fair Philippines 2021. I'm Lisa Periquet, co-founder of the fair. Today, we will feature an artist demonstration with Claude Tayag on the wet-on-wet watercolor technique. Before we begin, just a few reminders. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the demonstration. Please feel free to type in your questions using the chat box at the bottom right of your screen. Art Fair Philippines Open Studios is presented together with our education partners, the Ateneo Art Gallery, Museum Foundation of Philippines, and Art Review. Allow me to introduce to you today's watercolor expert, Claude Tayag. Claude is a proud native of Angeles City, Pampanga. He is a Renaissance man who is proficient in the culinary, artistic, design, and journalistic fields. To be precise, he is an accomplished painter, wood sculptor, furniture designer, award-winning cusinero, a best-selling book author, a columnist for the Philippine Star, and an erstwhile TV host for the show Chasing Flavors on the Metro Channel. Claude is primarily a self-taught artist with a background in architecture and economics from the University of the Philippines. He considers his mentor, the writer-painter Emilio Abe Aguilar Cruz, as his greatest influence in painting. Claude first entered the Manila art scene in 1977, winning a second prize award for his painting Ati-Atihan in the Art Association for Philippines annual art competition. The following year, he held his first one-man exhibition, which explored images of Philippine folk festivals, folk Santo figures, and Cordillera landscapes, works characterized by colorful, forceful spontaneity and a raw vigor. Claude has had 18 one-man exhibitions since then of both painting and wood sculpture. He has participated in numerous group exhibitions, both here and abroad. His art is held in many private and public collections, such as those of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the Bank of the Philippine Islands, and PLDT. His more than 40 years of painting in watercolor culminated in a retrospective exhibition at the National Museum of the Philippines from July to September 2019. Claude will be showing us today his deft handling of the wet-on-wet watercolor technique, which has been a hallmark of many of his works. Hello, Claude. Nice to see you today.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for the invite, for giving me this chance to demonstrate my skills in watercolor.
Yeah, Claude is an old friend. And before we begin, I think I want to give a little bit of trivia on the way we pronounce your name, because most people say Claude, but actually people who've known Claude call him Claude, because Claude is actually the 9th of 12 siblings. His name is derived from Claudio, and being the 9th of 12 siblings, they nicknamed him Cloud9. So that's the origin of the pronunciation of Claude's name.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so Claude, this is a pre-recorded session, which you'll be kind of annotating as we go along, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so I think we can begin with the video.
Time. That will be the fourth element. Water, the color, the paper, and then time. It's the perfect timing. When to apply the paint, when to apply the water, how much to apply the water. Well, it could be intimidating, but if you know what you're doing, if you have the skills, it really is child's play. And I tell you that the satisfaction once you make a good one, you cannot describe the feeling of a sense of achievement. I would say mission in life, like to promote watercolor as a major medium. It's a medium to contend with. You know how it is here in the Philippines when we talk about art. They only see oil painting, and then what about watercolor? And then yet they say watercolor, and I believe it's the hardest medium to master. But then it doesn't get the same respect as oil. Okay, let's put it this way. When I was small, growing up, we did not have toys, store-bought toys, and we didn't have television. I was born in 1956, the ninth of 12 children. We were given like pencil and paper to draw with, and that was the cheapest form of babysitting. There were no gadgets, there were no television, and yet we made it through. And then I was given a set of guitar paint, probably cost like 50 centavos at that time. And then I incessantly drew, painted. And the thing was, growing up, I thought watercolor was child's play. Until in 1968, my father had a group of artists coming over to the house, led by Emilio Aguilar Cruz, Abe Cruz. Abe Cruz was his bosom friend, Emil Saller, from high school in Pampanga until they were together in the newspaper in the post-war years. So Abe brought with him his Dimasalan group of artist friends. And also another guest was the future national artist Vicente Manansala, Sim Sofronio Y. Mendoza, Rodolfo Ragodon, Andres Cristobal Cruz. And I have an extant photo taken by my father. Remember, nobody had cameras then with them like the way we do now, even with our smartphones. He was a journalist, so he had a camera with him. So he took this shot of his 12-year-old boy watching grown-up men paint. That was the turning point in my life. Here I was thinking, growing up, that painting was for children. And I saw grown-up men painting. So I told myself, that is what I want to be when I grow up. So much later on, I wanted to take up architecture since it was the nearest to fine arts and at UP. But on weekends, I used to see Abe Cruz in his studio in Mabini Street. So I developed my own style, although he was critiquing my works and all that. And in 1978, so this is my watercolor journey. It was my 40 years of painting watercolors, more than 40 years, culminated in a retrospective watercolor exhibit at the National Museum in 2019. And this is the catalog book that accompanied that exhibit. All the photographs here were taken by Hiroshima, and the book itself is being sold at artbook.com. Okay? Okay, so this is 40 years of work. I call it a watercolor journey, but it has been my long time journey. And at the same time, there are other editions of that. From that collection, I have this, the Grand Tour, 1979-1980. I went traveling around Europe for 11 months, 79-1980. And I carried with me a portfolio bag with a watercolor pad like this, block, and a watercolor set this small, only this. That's it. And for 11 months, I had like $10 a day budget. That was a big deal at that time. And I came up with, I painted like postcards in situ, wherever I was, and I sent them home. Look at that. This is the postmark. Notes to my mother, to friends, to my siblings, whoever. And then at the end of the 11 months, when I came home, everybody I sent to postcards, they gave it back to me. So I was able to come up with this album. This is a GT print, digital print, on arch paper, again by Hiroshima Studio. So they were printed in Apple size. Again, this book, limited edition book of 100, is available at artbook.com. Hi, I'm Claude Tayag, the painter. I'm about to do a painting demo, watercolor. The technique I'm going to use will be the wet on wet, because in traditional watercolor painting there are two schools of thought. Will be the dry and then the wet. I hope this will give you a glimpse on what goes through an artist's mind, the creative process in tackling watercolor. You know, the watercolor is supposed to be the hardest medium to master. I'm going to show you Hard, difficult as it may seem, it's like child's play. Come and join me. Okay, let's start with the art materials here. And most of these are bought locally. They are available in several stores. I've bought them in several stores and they come in different brands. So in the end, it's up to you to choose which, well, in the first place, like what is available and what is affordable to you. I love this postcard size. You can just cut from a big sheet if you don't have, you cannot find this. And then it comes rectangular. Actually, I just cut this from the arch half into half, the bigger one. And generally, what I prefer for landscape paintings would be the cold press. There are two kinds, hot press, cold press. The hot press would be generally fine grain, meaning smooth. And what I like is the textured one. So this is from the cold press. And I love best this one. It's new in the market. It's a panoramic cut. So it's very rough. So I like this for the, especially for the Baguio landscapes. And then the large one, the big sheets, of course. And usually it comes in 300 grams. And this one, 450. The higher the number, the better. That means it's thicker. So, and what I love about this, they call watercolor blocks. You don't need to stretch it. I mean, long time ago, we used to tape it on a piece of plywood, the paper gum tape. So you wet that tape, and then you stretch it, then wet it, let it dry, then you can paint it. So this one is the most convenient thing. And then when it comes to the paints, the most available ones would be the ones in tubes. So it's basically like a soft, you just press out into this watercolor trays, they call it. Half pans and the full pans. And then the cakes, these are hard, you supply water and then it will soften. And the third one would be the ones that is called a watercolor liquid. I bought this in Deovir, I think. Very limited colors, but basically if you're doing large scale especially, you need these ones. You still need to dilute it with water. It's too intense. It's very much like they used to be in the market, the Indian ink, colored Indian ink, not just black. And then of course the brushes. The best ones would be the sable. They're the most expensive ones. Like this could cost like $200 if it was sable. But these are just like imitation thing, and synthetic. I'm fine with that. It comes pointed, flat, rounded. So it's up to you to choose which brush is needed for a specific application. And don't worry about that. I mean, through experience, what I did was just like trial and error. Like, just keep on going and all that. There's a lot of tutorials for free online. Just search the internet. If you're a beginner especially, it will teach you, to guide you where to or how to start. Okay, for our first demo, this will be the wet on wet technique. It's the best technique that would capture the mood swings. I would say the mood weather swings of Baguio. I love doing all this, the mist, the fog creeping into the valleys, into the different plains of mountains. The trick here is how much water to apply in the first place. You don't wet the whole thing. You would want some spaces that would keep dry to make way for something. Okay, just bear with me. Okay, so just imagine two hills. One in the far ground, in the horizon, and then one would be like in front of it, tangentially, partially covering the mountain behind it. So the mountain behind it would be like in a hazy, very light covering with a film of fog. Okay, so that will be my objective here. So let's see. So in the big brush of this is wetting the sky part. Okay, so sky, and then here's the trick. Okay, and then here, I'm skipping like 1/8 of an inch. And then more water here in the foreground, ready for the fogging to prepare. Okay, now for the paint, I need a pointed one. So you see this? I need like a hazy, bluish thing. Okay, I have several hues of blue here, from the ultramarine blue, sky blue, cobalt blue, tallow blue. So it's up to you to mix. Okay, see, two light. See those? And these are the trees in the horizon that get lost in the fog. Okay, now for the main mountain thing. Okay, now for some green. What I usually do is mix hooker's green with some birch sienna, and of course the horizon is dotted with houses, right? So this the hard edge thing, you leave like that, would be for the which later on you can actually smudge and soften the lines. Okay, you don't want that hard edge in the background as well as this one. Okay, so in the foreground you will have like tall pine trees, partially covering the hill in the background, and maybe in back here there will be like a lot of development. There will be like raw land, clay, red clay, brown clay. What I'm trying to capture actually, it's basically not of a specific place. There's no landmark. It's Baguio in essence. It's the wetness, the fogginess, the atmosphere that you feel when once you're in Baguio. It's cold, it's wet. So you know it's off Baguio, but you don't know exactly where in Baguio it is, right? So there'll be like pine trees in the foreground, branching. Actually, if you do bonsai, it'll be the best model to put in the foreground. Okay, it's getting dry. So I got in front. So this is the mister. It's a mini one. You would want to wet it again, not with a brush, but just for the background. It's getting too dry, fast, real fast. So you see this. I've already applied it. The paper in the background is already dry. So what you can do, spray it a bit. So this is what I'm sharing with you, the tricks of the trade. Here. And remember, watercolor, I mean, who's to say like you've made a mistake or what? I mean, don't be scared. Just do it. If you feel it didn't go right, then make another one. Who's to, I'm sorry, I moved it up, up, up. So let's wait for the white spots to dry a bit so I can smudge them. So I mean, meaning soften the edges. The main painting is basically done. It's just details. Don't to put in too much details. You don't have to fill it up. Remember, this is just a you're trying to capture the essence of Baguio, the fog, the mist, and all that. So there's not a particular house that you're trying to capture here, like or maybe the Baguio Cathedral, for example. So remember, all the white houses there are not all white. They could be under a shade or painted different color. So here comes the shading, the blue, and basically, as I said, to soften the. Okay, let me put in some details. Like the details meaning windows, to give it some sense of proportion, the scale in the foreground. So the farther it is from the horizon, in the horizon, the smaller it gets, and the fainter it is. Okay, so let's wait for it to dry again. Some more. So I'll put in like trees behind the roofs of some houses. So this is the detailing now. And with this layering, this is now the dry technique, meaning I'm applying paint on the dry surface. But the thing is, I'm trying to establish planar layering of, you would know that this is more distant than this one. They're like layers and layers of different planes that would create depth. Okay, it's almost done. I'm happy with the trees at the background here, the horizon. And then this one here, they just disappear into the sky. They jump out of the mountain here, and then they blend in with the fog. Okay. You see the white part I was talking about? This is the absence of color into the paper. But there's, you know, the water went through there. Same here. Faint color here, blue. And then just blended with the green. You know, it's like another plane, the fog. I'll keep this portions here white, hard edge. And basically that draws your eyes to that. It's like the focal point. I need some yellow ochre, something yellow, like in the houses. This will be the, so a lot of houses are painted that way, right? So it doesn't have to be monotonous. Okay, I think that's about it. I don't want to overdo it. Okay, so here it is. I think I can tilt it. Can you draw it? So here. There you go. So I'm basically doing a portrayal of the Taal volcano eruption like 2 years ago with like 50 shades of blue. Okay, it's basically monochromatic. Okay, I'll start off by showing you how far back I've been so fascinated with this atmospheric perspective in the academic sense. The play of the clouds, changing moods of the sky. There. Okay, I painted this in 1974. See this, I call it the red light. You see that red flame in the center, covered, surrounded by a dark blue, gray cloud. And in the background would be like, it could be any eruption, it could be even a cataclysmic whatever. And look what I found in the internet. during the Taal volcano eruption 2 years ago. Look at this. Isn't that like basically you can say an interpretation of an artist? But this is 74 and this is 2018. Look at this. Look at that. I mean, so as an artist, you're free to interpret from nature. You cannot just like, you know, just copying nature as a landscapist. And this time around, we're going to take inspiration from a photo that was in the headlines of many newspapers, taken by this attorney, Dante Pamintuan, I think. Look at that. And he happened to be there at the right moment, at the right time. Look at that. Look at the way that, like, it's literally a cataclysmic atmospheric disturbance in a major way, in an epic way. But look at the play of, I mean, it's so intimidating just to looking at it and how to do it in watercolor. You cannot do that in any other medium. It's like the only way to capture the, I can see the turbulence. Like, it's so intense. It's like you're like sucked in the, what do you call that? That thing in the sea. Okay, let me stop talking and do the work, the painting. So, I tell you, this is an inspiration. I'm not making a literal copy of it. Leave room, and as they say, for artistic freedom. Okay, let's start with water. You will see there's like white parts, so that will be the plain water thing. To keep it transparent, the whiteness of the paper, but there's also like the grayish, bluish part into the, and then this actual smoke here could be gray, could be blue, and this, look at this, it's clouds, white, but this one will be the further like this into the galaxy, meaning deep blue in the background. And here, on the ground level, ground zero, this light blue here would be the reflection of the sky, whereas here's the Taal volcano. Okay, so let's do it. So I have to do it standing up this time to get a better view, literally a better perspective of it. So now I'm using a bigger Chinese brush. So I'm tracing with a dry brush the movement of the water. Maybe I should apply the water from a squeeze bottle directly, since it's a lot of water. 1, 2, 3. So here, okay? Let me see. Very good. I don't know if the camera can catch the reflection here. So this is like, you can call it invisible painting. Okay, now for some color. Starting with a light green. Let me see, I'm correct. I want to, here. Turning out like almost the, you know, the marbled paper? Mixing of oil and water, paint. Oops. New brush right there. Okay, let's make room for the volcano. Okay, for the smoke. Supposed to be a curly thing. So we create that, and then you can smudge later on, soften the edges. indigo liquid watercolor. Okay, now for the lake, the reflection of the water. Horizon. Water here. Remember, this is still I'm still doing the sky part. The far horizon here. So there will be cloud formations here. See that? The white part here. So here. So now we're going back to the smoke. And I'm just playing, literally playing with fire, playing with water. So here. I like that one. You know, sometimes like you want it frozen as it is. Stop, 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 stop. I need the water. Okay. Keep it still. Don't move. Okay, let's see. Running out. Later I will give it some depth by highlighting the dark portion, like deep into the cyclone. The sky. Okay, let's see. Now I have to see the reflection where it's still wet and where it's still dry. It's too wet, so I don't want to touch it yet. So once it's too wet, I don't want to touch it. Let's see. I'm going to define the volcano portion, the lower portion. So with a pointed brush, so here you can apply a dry technique. Meaning you put in layers, darker shades. Now for the smoke, curly. Okay, see the difference here. Okay, mark these two. Now these two. These two white dots here. Get it first. Let's see what happens. Then you smudge it. You can even use a Q-tip, but I'd rather use this brush. Look at the portion here. I keep it white. Although there's a very, very faint shade of blue, and that's the reflection of the sky. You know it's a body of water. So basically the lake is already suggested there, the body of water. And then here's the small volcano here. The actual volcano that erupted would be behind it. So this is the actual volcano here. This is just a crater in the foreground. I really don't understand the topography of, like, you see the smoke, the eruption comes from the bigger mountain here at the back, not the Taal volcano that we think is a volcano. So this is a crater. From what I understand, the whole lake is the caldera that collapsed in the previous century's eruption. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to put some dark color to give it some depth. Yeah, so again, let's wait. Um, Maybe another 5 minutes for me to apply the darker shade. So if you can bear with me, let's take a pause. Okay, now let's resume. I think it's completely dry, but let me do some finishing touches. I want to add dark portions of like here to give it some depth, and then the white part will like come out to the to you. Okay, what I need to do when it on the edges, if I'm going to spray it, you cannot stop the running. So here, I want the white, the main white. So it's the background here. So again, I'm applying a wet on wet technique. There. I think that's enough. Enough for the foreground. The green. It's not really that important, but the thing is, it's a supporting role. It establishes a like the base. Give it some texture of the forest. There's so many tricks to the texture into the sponge. For example, a rough one. You know, the natural sponge. Or a crumpled tissue paper. So crumpled tissue paper. I want a dry one, a rough one. So this is the folded napkin, kitchen napkin. So again, this is another trick of the trade without missing a. So this kind of wet. You see that? Not too much, just another thing. And then spread it with. Okay. Okay, so I think it's completely dry. I can tilt it. I can show it to you. So here it is. You have to really to see it from a distance. Like from here, you get the full view. Normally, if I'm this close, I will squint my eye. So look at that. Does it look like a volcano or what? The eruption. So there you go. So did I seem like I enjoyed it? I was playing? Well, it was very, very challenging, but at the same time so rewarding. And I feel so, so happy that I was able to do it the way I intended it. The way, and the only way to do that is really through practice. I hope you enjoyed my little demo here as much as I did.
Hi, Claude. Oh, you're on mute.
So thank
Hi.
you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful demonstration.
Wait, what do I do? Unmute?
You're fine now.
I'm fine. Okay, there.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was well, very instructive, and I think we have a few questions in the Q&A box. But before that, I'd like to ask you a few questions so people can
Sure.
understand a bit more about your background as an artist. For example, I've known you for a long time, possibly 40 years now. I don't want to be too exact. I've been a fan of your works, especially the wood sculptural pieces. And I even remember your first watercolor exhibit in Baguio when you already employed this wet on wet technique. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about why you love to work with watercolor? Because it's been a recurrent theme throughout all your interests in wood, in cooking, and things like that.
Yes. Well, for me, watercolor, it's such an intimate medium to work with. It's just, you have a small set of watercolor paints. But I grew up dealing with watercolor as parang as a toy, meaning, remember I mentioned earlier in the video, like as a child, I was I'm the ninth of 12 children, no? So the last batch, yung number, I'm the ninth. So number 9, and then yung susunod, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Kami naiwan sa bahay with our mother. The rest were already in school. And then when they were in college, in UP. So kami naiwan sa Pampanga, no? So the thing was, we were given, well, mostly, how the middle child syndrome thing is, like you're given like hand-me-down clothes and all that. So we were never bought store-bought. We were never given store-bought toys. So it was like we made our own toys by like folding old newspaper, make them into boats, di ba? Yung ganun na bangka-bangka, or even to hats, and then play pirates and all that. So talagang the world was open to our, as your imagination can allow you. And then we were given this pencil and scrap pieces of paper to draw with. So yun ang babysitting namin. Like, sige, mag-drawing muna kayo habang ginagawa yung pagkain nyo, yung ganon. So, and basically we were made to fend for ourselves. So we also played outdoors and all that. So talagang yung imagination mo was so, talagang you can say, what is the right word? Na-cultivate, yung creative part of in us, no, that we all have. So the thing was, yung watercolor talagang yun ang aking parang I find so much, you're lost in that piece of paper while doing it. Actually, yung ginagawa ko nga yung demo na yon, being videoed and tasked to talk about it. It's kind of, it's a double, for me, no, double effort. Normally, you would want to keep painting in a quiet place, and maybe like in my case, like late in the night or early in the morning, walang cell phones, walang tao dyan sa walang telephone calls, walang tao sa paligid mo, and all that. So I always thought like painting in watercolor was really, kaya wala akong takot. Wala akong kwan. And then the momentous event that in 1968, when my father invited to Angeles this group of artists nga, that I saw and made me realize that here are grown-up men painting, and all the while I thought it was child's play. Yeah. And then I can I have the photo, Cecile, of the number 2, the group of photos after the group of artists. Okay, the next one, the next 4. Yes, okay. So I grew up having these paintings in my father's house, seeing them, and I was trying to emulate them. Copy. So in a way, they were indirectly my mentors. So Abe Cruz, 1971. So C. Mendoza, 1971. Galicano, 1971. Andres Cristobal Cruz. They were basically the Masalang group of artists that Abe founded. So, but the thing is, I grew up seeing these paintings on the walls of my father's house, and I tried to copy them. So this was 78. So I was like 15 years old at that time. So, and then move forward like 78, 76, the next one, the next painting, please. Um, so initially I was literally copying their works. So in that sense, and this is like in the impressionist painting on plein air, outdoor, and mind you, if you will notice, they were done without pencil sketches. Directly, the paintbrush paint directly on the paper. And that was what I was trying to do. Okay,
Yeah.
the next photo.
Mm-mm.
And then the next photo, please. Yeah, okay, look at this one. It was painted, it was signed 1976.
This is by
first,
you, Claude.
by me now, okay.
Okay.
Of Baguio still, no? I'm in the same Baguio. And the thing was, I did this in Baguio, staying in an apartment. And the time that I showed it to Abe afterwards, to Abe Cruz, who was my mentor, no? He would critique it. Sabi niya, Cloud, hindi na kami yan, ikaw na yan. And this is not my only extant for painting of that period. The rest I got lost or I destroyed them or what. 1976, so that was what. And then he told me, you can consign your works at ABC Galleries owned by Larry Cruz, his son. So 1978, I sold several. Then he told Larry, scheduled me for a one-man exhibit. And that was for me the defining moment that started me officially as an artist in Manila, I mean in the Philippines. So this one, again, was done spontaneously without any sketch, but the sketches here would be the lines. Again, using paintbrush, pointed paintbrush with the blue paint, right? So the thing, for me, what I like, what I love about watercolor is the spontaneity. I mean, you can express yourself in such, and you have to, it's a race against time. You wet the paper, then you apply the color, the water, like how much of the water you have to apply, and the timing, like when to apply the paint. Otherwise, it will just it will bleed out, and it will be just like as much of whatever.
Yeah.
Full of adult colors.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, for me, that started me off officially. This painting. That's why I feel this very, very important in my. I mean, for me, for myself.
Yeah. What age, Claude, do you think you realized that you wanted to kind of be an artist? I mean, was this already starting in your mind, or was this more like on the side, something that you do on the side?
Oh yeah, on the side. That's a good question. So at 12 years old, when I saw those grown-up men painting, I said that's what I wanted to be. But at the moment at the year of reckoning, on my third year high school, diba, you were told, you were given this, what do you call them? They will brief you. I mean, in school, for a future, for a possible course that you will take up for college, right? So on the fourth year, you have to apply in different universities in Manila, wherever, and I wanted to take up fine arts.
Oh, okay.
As a painter, that's initially. And then my father, being a writer himself, meaning, still an artist. So the thing was, you take something more practical, more concrete, sabi niya. Remember, this was 1973. I graduated, 72. Okay, 72. I graduated in 73, high school. So entered university in 1973. So the thing was, upon that period, early 1970s, fine arts was considered, at least by the generation of our parents, of my parents, it was just a vocational training. Fine arts. So, walang pera dyan, gugutumin ka. That was the most famous lines na, like, how would you support a family with painting? And then, so the thing was, so the nearest course that I thought of that will be related to painting, at least fine arts, would be architecture. That's what I applied for, and that's what I was accepted in the UP system.
Okay.
So, but in the meantime, I kept on painting on the side. So, ang gusto lang ng tatay ko, just so you will have a fallback. You graduate, you show me a diploma, and then do whatever you want. Yun ang kanyang, yun ang kanyang plan. Because like, remember, like, I'm the ninth of 12 children. Two of our eldest brothers are lawyers, and then one is an accountant, then one is kung ano-anong mga professions nila. So,
are you the only artist in your amongst your siblings?
Our eldest sister Carmen took up fine arts in major in advertising.
Okay.
Under Jose Hoya, who was the dean at that time. And that's how I was introduced to him. So on my lull days that I would sit in Dean Hoya's classes, live modeling and all that. So he allowed me. I mean, this is on my spare time. So the whole time I was taking up architecture and then moved on to economics. So I was sitting in, I mean, I never left the painting scene. So kaya nahasa ako over the years.
Yeah, so it's always been there, Claude. That's what you're saying.
There.
Always been there on the side. Okay, Claude, we have a lot of questions, mostly very practical and technical ones.
And I'll make them short.
Yeah, if I could start, I'd like to start off with a more general question about the nature of your artwork from Charmaine Wang. She is asking a couple of questions. What is the message you like to convey in your artwork? And two, can you talk about the aesthetic? So they're quite general questions. So why would you use the wet and wet technique? Do you think it conveys a particular feeling, for example, in your artwork? Is that why you employ that aesthetic? But I know you also work with the dry watercolor technique.
Yeah. Okay. Let's put it this way. In terms of messages, most of my art are done intuitively. It's either you like it or you don't. I mean, you want to do it. You want. Wala akong message. But as far as the Baguio landscapes are concerned, I'll say this anecdote. During the exhibition at the National Museum, so the paintings were done in were grouped according to theme. So I was being interviewed by a reporter, and as we went from the Santo paintings, and then we move on to the Cordillera landscapes, which are the Baguio. Tapos sabi niya, bigla na lang, I mean, spontaneously he said, bigla akong nanlamig. Sabi niya gano'n, nakita ko yung mga Baguio landscapes mo. So I think for me, in that sense, I succeeded in what I was trying to capture in that flat sheet of paper. It's the essence of Baguio nga, yung sinasabi ko sa iyo, the fleeting moment of the fog. I mean, basically Baguio, we would describe it as a wet place, meaning it always rains. But to capture the different moods of Baguio at different times of day, that in itself, for me, it's the objective there. It's capturing it. I love Baguio. I mean, we all do, right? But the thing is, this is fast vanishing. This kind of Baguio that we know of. So in effect, in terms of technical, the technical aspect would be in promoting watercolor in itself. Na it's a major medium. It's not just watercolor lang, ang mahal-mahal, ganon palagi sinasabi. You know, in Chinese painting, watercolor, the scroll, the Ming Dynasty thing, watercolor paintings or even the calligraphy, meaning like 500, 800 years old. I mean, they say kasi watercolor, papel lang yan, baka hindi yan maglast, ganon. As long as you preserve it well, you hang it well, you talagang it will survive like several lifetimes.
Okay, Claude, go on to more questions. Yeah,
Yes.
very practical ones. A couple of people want to know what brands of coloring materials you use because they couldn't quite hear it on the audio.
Oh, I have several. As I mentioned, uh, there are like several stores in Manila, within Metro Manila. There is the Art Bar, owned by National Bookstore, I think, at Serendra. And
Yes.
then, okay, these are the stores. But the brands, I would go for the imported, meaning there's none locally that is worth your while. So the thing is, from the expensive one, Winsor & Newton, the Holbein, among others, Bango, marami. And then depending also on the availability of the color, that specific hue of blue. Sometimes it's not available in other stores or in other brands. So iba-iba. You stay with those. But as a beginner or even medium and for experiment, in college we use Prang. It's still there up to now. And it's not cheap, huh? I'm meaning 700 pesos for yung tray na ganon. There's also a Grumbacher like this, a tray. Because I use this, I use the cake form for the dry technique here. So this is in the cake form, hard. So this is Grumbacher and transparent. And this is good enough to experiment with. Di ba sabi sa'yo, trial and error lang and all that. It doesn't have to be the expensive ones.
Okay. All right. There's several questions about this from an anonymous attendee. What kind of paper for watercolor would you recommend for beginners? And thank you for this fascinating demonstration.
Yes. Okay. For beginners, Oslo paper is fine.
Okay.
That's the cheapest, or even the notebook, the spiral notebook. It says drawing paper. As long as it's thick enough, pwedeng. I've also experimented with the Chinese scroll paper, not for calligraphy, although that's too thin. So the best really, if for experimentation, Oslo paper, or the meron naka spiral bound sketch pads specifically for watercolor. Pwede na yon.
Okay. All right. What from another anonymous attendee, what are the elements that you need to consider when painting landscape or scenery?
Elements to consider?
Yeah, like what do you think about? I think it's there when we can see it when, for example, you prepare yourself, you stand up, you put the water in a certain direction, right? You apply it in a certain way and with certain tools. I mean, what are you thinking about when you're doing this?
Okay, I think, if you've seen the video, I did things instinctively, intuitively, but this is all based from 40 years of experience. I just did not come up with putting the water.
Yeah.
You have to know, you have to have a deep, you can say, foundation. So I guess that's where if you want a tutorial like how to do watercolor for beginners, there's a lot of it free online. But the thing is, from experimentation, in the first place, you set your objective. Where do you want to go? Para bang may destination ka. And then you have to find out how to get there. So, number one, the choice of paper, the smooth or rough. And then the colors and the water, what to do. So, again, this all comes from experience lang. I cannot give you a clear-cut instructional manual like how to do it. So you do, and then if you do it often enough, practice, and then you learn. If you think you made a mistake, learn from them. You take notes. What happened here? I did a lot of experimentation. Remember that red flame at the start? That was part of my experimentation. I was 18 years old at that time, I think. So yun ang kwento. There's no clear-cut manual how to do or what to
Yeah.
do.
Uh-oh. But when you look at a landscape or scenery, do you pick out, for example, do you pick out certain elements you want to bring out? Like sometimes maybe I would say in your work, maybe it's more the atmosphere than, very detailed renderings of bushes or trees or mountains. It's sort of abstracted. That's why you like to use the watercolor technique. Is that why, is that the way you view landscape as, what about it inspires you and what elements do you pick up? I think that's what this person is
Okay.
asking.
Yeah, the general, you can say, atmosphere, capturing the time of day. Can we play the Baguio landscapes, starting I think on number 4 or 5 with the blue ones. And then I will talk along the way as we move on. Like you play them like, okay, so starting with this one. So again, this Baguio, like maybe after the rain. So they're wet and the deep greens and blues. The next one, please. So you're capturing a specific time. This is sunset of Baguio. This is a large painting that I did of over 4 feet long. Huh? So the thing is, how do you capture that? This is a Cordillera scene, meaning, it's off Baguio, but not of a specific place. The pine trees, and you can almost smell the scent of pine. So next one. So again, this is what I'm saying, your objective. This is like misty, like early morning mist. So almost monochromatic. Again, this is a different mood I'm trying to Baguio. I'm trying to capture. But at the same time, I think this is the Carabao Hill. There's hardly any trees. So again, could there be a message there? It's up to the viewer. Like, it's the overdevelopment. And this was painted in 1983. Can you imagine how it is right now? Probably there's not a single space there of blue. It's all the dotted houses. It's all the, yeah. So again, next painting, please. So this is like, for me, this is my most successful in terms of capturing the you can say creeping fog. For me, this is essentially Baguio. This is Baguio. The wetness, the fog. I don't know what to say. I've said it in painting. So I don't know if I've answered the viewer's question, but
well, I think by showing those images, you've showed how varied it could be and what elements you have chosen to emphasize.
To emphasize, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, someone else says, hi, thank you for organizing this. Very helpful for beginners like me. May I know if the recording will be shared to the public so I can review? Thank you. Yes, we will be uploading this instructional video after the art fair, probably on our website. So please look out for it then. Claude, that's all right with you, right?
Yes, of course. This is yours. And I'm glad to hear that, because I've got messages here asking if it's recorded. Now you mentioned it, so that's good.
Okay.
Okay.
We have so many anonymous questions. I don't know why, but anyway, how do you find ways to add visual texture through watercolor? I think you combine two techniques sometimes, no?
Yes, depending in like in my my Santo paintings, I applied gold leaf, the wrapper of a candy. I did that last year at the art fair when a live demo, doing the dry technique that last time. That's why this time I'm doing the wet on wet. So to apply, to make texture, uh, then it becomes like a collage almost. A collage meaning it's mixed media.
Mixed
It's not no
media.
longer strictly
Yeah.
watercolor. Maybe
Yeah.
the background is watercolor. Then you apply. I have some antique paintings here. They put uh, their landscapes, local landscapes. The bamboo sticks, meaning the branch of the tiny bamboo, almost like toothpick size.
Mhm.
They applied it to make a nipa hat, yung
Mhm.
bahay kubo. So it's up to then it becomes. It's perfectly okay to mix it with other material. It's
Mm-mm.
not strictly. Um, I don't have it ready with me, but the one I did last year, I applied. I cut into squares the gold leaf, and it's cheap. I actually passed around candies. What do you call the round thing? Ferrero.
You use the gold leaf of the gold
The
wrapper,
wrapper,
the
the
candy
gold
wrapper.
wrapper.
Yeah.
Yeah, of the candy,
Okay. Yeah.
the truffles, and
Yeah.
then I pasted them, glued them over the santo.
Mm,
Na, of course, it's placed well.
yeah.
Strategically, like it's part of the garment.
Yes.
So you can mix. There's a lot of other things.
How
I
about,
Yeah.
uh
Oh,
go
go ahead.
ahead, Cloud. Sorry.
No. I
I
can.
wanted to
You can
ask
move on. You can move on.
if combining watercolor, sorry, the wet on wet with dry technique can also help add visual texture
Oh
to
yes, definitely,
your
definitely.
effects.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. If you
Okay.
can show the angel of the last
Ah,
one.
yes.
Uh,
Okay. Let's
that's
show
it.
that.
The last one.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the left would be the actual santo, the antique, and then on the right, this is
Ah,
what I did for
mhm.
the demo. One of the two paintings. So look at the wing part. Can you move it to the side? Yeah. Do you see it? The
Yes.
blue part, that's actually wet on wet, but the rest is
Mm,
dry. But
yes.
and also like the pink cheek, that
Yes.
is wet on wet. But to have textural thing, I applied. Okay, if you wet where is that? A while ago, I just showed it to you. Oh, here, the cake, the the paints in cakes. If you wet this, okay, wet this a bit, and then you scrape it with the metal part. Can I show this? Where am I? Am
Baka you
I?
can highlight
Can you
Cloud, put him on
can
the
highlight it first?
yeah,
Okay.
there. Okay.
Okay.
We
And
can
then
see it.
okay, you see this
The
there.
cake. Uh-uh.
No, you see this brush.
Mm.
This is the spent brush that actually I cut the bristles and then flatten the metal part that holds the bristles. If you scrape that and then you apply it, look at that. Going back to the wings. Let's go back to the wing. I do the angel, I mean.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Okay, can you highlight the wing?
There
Up
it
there.
is. Yes.
Can you highlight the wing? Okay. So look at the blue and then the brown. So I
Yeah.
started with wetting the edges of the wing, and then I applied through a width. I call it now palette painting. It's like a little knife that you scrape the paint, thick paint, solid, and then you spread it like that on the wing, and it will smudge a bit. But a texture remains, meaning the thick paint that will somehow evoke the layers of paint, in polychromatic santos, meaning layers and layers of paint over the centuries that they repainted it without cleaning the underlying paints. So you have layers and layers of paint. So that suggests texture.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And even if you feel that feels very, very scratchy, in the actual painting.
So
Actually,
yeah. So that's very interesting that you apply several techniques to achieve
yes, in one
things
single
like
painting,
visual
yes,
texture. Yeah.
yes,
So be
yes,
creative. I think people can be creative with the way they use the watercolor. They gain confidence over time, I suppose,
mhm.
and mastery of the medium. From Danzen Katanyag, very inspiring work, sir. How much time do you spend daily to create a painting habit and eventually an artful life? Do you paint when only when inspiration calls, or is it a matter of discipline? It's an interesting question. He wants to know, do you
Yeah.
paint watercolors daily? You probably have, no, at some point in time?
Yes, actually, all of the above. It should
Oh,
be a
okay.
discipline, but I am a very undisciplined artist. I paint when the inspiration comes, and when it comes, it can come in the middle of the night, middle of the day, anytime, anytime. And I will not say moods. That
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what. It's too much stereotyping. It's the inspiration. Like if I find a new asanto that comes my way, or I just see it in the web, in the what do you call this, in the social media sharing of what do you call those groups? Anyway, the antiques group, let's say.
yes,
Uh,
yes. Oo.
and then I ask permission
Chat
to the
rooms.
owner that can I paint that, or can I take inspiration from that? Para
Yeah,
bang it's just compelling, para bang it's to let go. You have to
yeah,
do it right there and then. So
yeah.
I don't have a fixed time
Okay.
when I paint, when
Yeah,
I do things. Actually, when I design furniture, I design sculptures, you do it by drawing. So in a way, it's a concept, no? And concretizing your ideas on a piece of paper, which you cannot do on computer. So
yeah.
the thing is, yung by hand talaga, that keeps my hands deft. So
Supple, yes. Yeah.
practice. So kaya yung it's so easy for me to shift from this and that. Uh, it's all handy work, handcrafts. So
Okay.
for me, it's all of the same thing. It's a creative intuition. People ask me about my cooking. When did I start cooking, or which came first, and which I enjoyed more, doing the cooking. Of course, you cook every day. We don't cook every day. Creating the recipes. That's the artistic part, and then you train staff to do that for the
Mhm.
restaurant. So I don't cook. They call me a chef, but I'm not a chef. I'm just a home cook that went out of my comfort zone.
Or
So
like you like to call yourself a cusinero.
yes, exactly. I'm not a home cook. Kusinero lang ako.
Yeah. Yeah.
Slave. Slave
Yeah.
sa aking asawa.
Yeah.
Kung gusto kong ginataan, bilo-bilo, sabi niya. At the middle of the night. Mabuti na lang, meron akong ingredients dyan sa pantry. So, yung ganun ba? So,
Yeah.
it comes in very, very handy.
Yeah.
Being okay. I mean, let's put it this way. When I started successfully exhibiting my work and selling them, my paintings, at the same time, I went into public cooking. I've always been cooking at home for my family, for friends, and all that. They've always known me since I was in high school and college. They already knew me as a cook, as a person who can cook. But the thing was, when I started successfully exhibiting my works and selling them, my father told me, ngayon artist ka na talaga, sabi niya. Hindi ka gugutumin. And plus the fact that I can fend for myself in the kitchen, literally.
Yeah.
Yung nagluluto pa ako, binabayaran ka pa. Yung ganon. So,
Oo.
put me anywhere in any part of the world, I will survive because I can cook. Yung ganon. The
Okay.
painting,
Mm.
ganon din. Yung para bang panindigan mo lang yung yung conviction.
Yeah.
I think that's I just kept on creating, producing in whatever medium that calls for the particular project at that time.
Yeah. Claude, I'd like to ask you to bring you back to this, your interest in Santos, okay,
Yes.
because that's a recurrent theme. Now, I remember, I think that must have been your first collection of Santo watercolors. There's an interesting story. Were you not on vacation in Guimaras and then you saw somebody's collection and you just were inspired
Oh,
to paint them?
yeah.
I don't know if that's accurate, my
Yeah.
memory. Let me
Yeah,
know.
actually, I wrote that in my retrospective book. So the thing was, when I presented my works to Larry Cruz, and I consigned them in his ABC galleries, 1977, 76, 77. And he scheduled me for, okay, ready ka na mag-exhibit, sabi niya. Schedule natin late 1978. So early or the middle of 1978, July, August, I think, I went to visit my aunt, the late Dr. Alicia Tayag Saldana,
Mhm.
living in Iloilo. She invited me to stay over and vacation there to paint, to be inspired by Panay landscape, Iloilo landscapes. May sea, may ganito sila, mountain and all that. So I went there. I was prepared. Like I mean, in totality, like I stayed there like 3 months before the exhibit. So the thing was, it fell on my stay there fell on the rainy season. So during daytime, my aunt would go work in a hospital, 8 to 5, and then my cousins were in school. So I was left in their house the whole day doing nothing. Do not go out and paint because it was raining. They gave me free use of the car, but I still could not go around. So I was left there staring at my aunt's collection of antique Santos. Talagang literally by the hundreds. Iba-iba.
Mm.
Doon ako nawili sa antique collecting. Plus the fact, I started sketching one, two, and then painting them in watercolor. Aba, yung from one painting a day, nagkakadalawang painting a day ako. Para bang tuloy-tuloy na that kept my so these were all signed in 1978. I think that was the one um, angel painting that you bought from the first exhibit,
Yes,
1978.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that's the one you have. I mean,
yeah.
so that means you've known me from the
A
day
long
one.
time, yeah.
First one-man exhibit. Even your Tita Diana Ongpin Rector,
Yeah,
several from that exhibit. So
yeah,
it was a very, very momentous. So that got me, I would say, it was a fatal attraction with the Santos.
yeah. And what I recall about it, Cloud, for me, it was like you interpreted the Santos in watercolor in a very sculptural way, which I found, I think was the beauty of that collection.
Yes.
With
Yeah.
watercolor, with
Oh,
watercolor.
in watercolor, yeah. You would think, watercolor is a painting on flat surface, right? So if
Yeah.
you create a volume, actually it's the writer Heritage of Saints, Chita Gagbonton.
Yes, yes.
She wrote an appreciation for my Santo paintings. For her, she says, like, I bring life to a
Yeah.
literally dead thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Meaning it's an old so parang it comes to life.
Yeah, and she's a Santo expert.
Yes, she's the one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Another anonymous attendee. Thank you for this webinar. I would like to ask if Mr. Tayag has any tips on how to avoid overblending or muddying watercolors.
Overblending, muddying. You've noticed in my several times I've said, oh, it could be I mean, don't put too much details or you have to the smudging, the overblending. That means you're applying color while it's still too wet. So you wait. It's a play of it's a game of patience, really.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah.
Another comment from Ravi Suniko. He noticed, I think from the video, the
Maybe, hi.
window, yeah, the window in the studio looked like a watercolor painting. That's what he thought.
It does. And you know the demo? Actually, it reminds me of a Soler painting.
Ah, yeah.
His leaves series. Those
Oo.
are leaves of ano, talagang iba yung brilliance ng green. They're
Yeah.
so transparent, parang watercolor nga talaga. Those
Oo.
are galangal plants. The blue
Ah,
ginger.
yeah, that he
I
grows.
noted
That
them to
still
Neil.
grows
And then,
there. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. Hi, Claude. It's Betty Ann Quirino from New Jersey, USA, saying hello.
Hello, Betty Ann. Hi.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. I have a question. Do you spray a fixative on the painting to preserve it before framing?
No, actually, I don't. Since you're putting it under glass, there's no need for the fixative. And there's some fixative that discolor over time. So I would rather not. If you put fixative, then you don't have to frame it under glass. But since you're putting watercolor, generally you put them under glass when you frame them.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to put together a couple of questions here. Denise Viernes is asking, what to remember when just starting to experiment with watercolor medium? And another anonymous attendee asks, what are your tips for beginners?
Just do it. Don't be scared. Don't, yung sinasabi nila, ay baka ako magkamali. Magkamali ng ano? I mean, everything is like, remember, this is just experimental. But the thing is, you go through the experience of yung brush mo. Alam mo I took a Chinese calligraphy class at that time under in UP Fine Arts. There was a guest professor from China, from mainland China, teaching calligraphy. So I sat in, and yung slight pressure, the brush. Okay, let's just do this. Wala pa yung Chinese brush ko dito, wala. So yung slight, the angle na lang, and the slight pressure, like if you press it, then all the paint goes. But if you just the tip touches the paper, then you have a fine line. So the thing is, you have to practice. When I was in UP architecture first year, we had a watercolor class conducted by architect Tina Turalba. Do you know her? Okay,
Yes,
architect
yes.
Tina. Yeah, she's she's a director of what do you call that? Board of directors.
And she's also an artist, yes.
And she's also an artist.
Yes.
So one of the exercises that we did, you start with the color wheel, the color combination. I mean, you start correctly, right? Whereas what I did was experimentation. So to prevent yourself from doing a lot of, wasting a lot of time and paint, do it correctly by doing the academic way. Study the color wheel, the combinations of color of the primary colors from red plus yellow becomes orange, right? So blue and yellow becomes green. Yung mga ganon. And then you start by painting that in the color wheel within the confines of the lines. Okay. So in that way, nahahasa yung kamay mo into fine detailing before you go abstract. And then another trick or another method that you could follow as a beginner, you buy a book, get hold of a book, or even actually the internet now, of your favorite artist that you want to emulate. If you want a Van Gogh, for example, yung brush strokes niya, pag ganun yun, that's kind of easy kasi layers lang. Di ba merong nabibiling color by numbers? So basically, yung set na yon, parang ganun yon, no? You try to copy each painting in that book. But at the end of the book, you would have absorbed, para bang by osmosis na absorb the technique of the artist. I mean, that's one way. Talagang uh, let's put it in another way. Para akong ano, no? Para akong pare, nagsisermon, iba-ibang anecdotes. I've just seen recently, again, the movie Julie and Julia. Okay, di ba, tinapos niya yung si Julie, tinapos niya yung, at least in that character, yung the whole cookbook, like what, 300 recipes or more, or every day one dish at a time of Julia Childs.
Mm.
At the end of the night, she became an expert in French cooking. Para bang ganun na yung, it took her a year.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it takes time. It takes practice,
It takes
discipline,
time.
building it up, you know.
Mm.
Okay. I think this question was answered from Jeffrey Yu. Have you ever tried dry watercolor painting? Please show a sample. I think this angel, Claude described that he used both techniques there. Edwin Galvez asks, finishing a work after racing against time, as you said, do you go back to it for touch-ups? Do you want to always come up with a perfect work? When is it enough? I think that's interesting. Like, when is it enough?
Yeah. Well, if you've seen in the Taal volcano eruption painting, I did go back to do some finishing touches by smudging a bit, wetting a bit again the dry parts that has hard edges. So I wanted to soften it by using plain water and then smudging it with a brush. So as I mentioned there also, I usually paint instinctively and intuitively. So the inner you tells you that's enough. Don't overdo it. Alam mo naman yung you've heard this many times, that applies to interior designers or even whoever in the artistic world. Yung horror vacui, the fear of empty space. I mean, in watercolor, you have to have self-restraint. Yung para bang, yung tigilan mo sarili mo by not putting everything there in one go. Don't showcase all your talent, all your skills in one painting. Of course, kanya-kanyang ano naman yun, style. I mean, depende if you are into photorealism, social realism. There is almost like a photographic reproduction of that scene, whatever you're trying to portray. So, I mean, in the end, you will find your own, as the expression goes, different strokes for different folks. So, there's no one clear one, even all these isms in painting, in whatever, the impressionism, modernism, expressionism, well, from the realism, kanya-kanyang kwan, you find your own niche.
Yeah.
By experimenting yung.
Yeah. Okay, we have so many questions. I think this one was answered. Jackie de Guzman, how long did it take for you to develop your own style in watercolor painting? Was it something that came naturally or something that you had to practice and focus on? I think you mentioned that it's really all about practice.
Practice, yes. But I mentioned too, going back to the painting 1976, it was at that point that I found my own style. Initially, I was copying the works of the Dimasalang group. Then, when I showed it to Abe Cruz, showed me, alam mo, I went to a literary workshop one time, and there comes a point in an artist's life, whether a painter or a writer, you have to kill the master. Do you know that expression? Have you heard of that expression?
Yes.
Meaning, cut the ties, the umbilical cord from your master, and then you be your own man. Or woman or artist. So in 1976, I was 20 years old. I already found myself in painting watercolor.
Yeah.
So that was the
Okay.
turning point. Yeah.
That's great. Um, it's great. You can identify the moment actually. No, Cloud.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. From an anonymous attendee, how would we capture the essence of a place? Does it depend on how we as an artist view it or the general vibes it gives off?
Well, the general vibes, that meaning yung what you feel about it. Yung, di ba,
Mhm.
the painting, it's a reflection of what the artist feels at the moment that he was painting. Para bang, uh, it's trying to capture that moment, fleeting and ephemeral as it is. So to be able to capture that on a piece of paper or on canvas, or even with photography, with whatever. I mean, that in effect comes with years and years of experience.
Mhm.
You're not, I would say, if you're not born with it, you can still
Develop
get
it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
develop it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Sir Cloud, for this session. I
Please
noticed
don't
that,
serve me.
huh?
Don't serve me. This I
Well,
want.
no,
I
he
most
said,
in the
sir.
I know. I know.
I'm just
I'm not.
capturing his
I know.
tone.
I know. I'm just. I'm well. In general. I'm commenting. I see it on social media. They share everybody here in the Philippines.
Yeah, that's
Why?
true.
We are not benighted by the QE2. So
It's a cultural
I know, but
sign of respect.
whatever happened to like Ige Ramos called me Koyang, even Ambet Ocampo calls me Koyang Cloud. So
Oo.
what happened to Koya or Tito or Tatang or whatever? Para bang
Okay.
sir, it's so yeah, so annoying.
Anyway, he noticed that most of your works are more scenery. Is the wet on wet technique also good for botanical paintings or mainly those of florals? Can you please elaborate a little bit more on the wet and dry techniques? I guess in reference to, different subject matter.
Yes, actually depends on what you're trying to portray what you're trying to capture. Botanical, of course, yes. Also dry. I mean, botanical paintings, they're more precise and very, very, you can say, detailed. So
Hmm.
that applies with the
Dry
dry
technique.
technique, and
Yeah.
more so with even gouache. When I say gouache, it's like it's no longer transparent. It's opaque. Uh, so just like poster paint, for example, or even what oil painting. The thing is, it all depends on the subject matter you're trying to capture.
Okay.
So what you've seen wet on wet, because this webinar is all about wet on wet technique.
Okay.
So naturally, I would show all my paintings using that technique.
Mhm.
But like last year, like behind me would be uh, my series of Santo paintings again that I've been doing the past 2 years using the dry and in some parts the wet. So again, if you're um, adept with both techniques, you combine them, and then I would like to claim I created my own technique using a palette knife, the pointed metal part of a brush, a tiny one, applying solid paint on a wet surface, and plus if you apply it, you get a texture. So again, that's my own. I develop it myself.
Mhm.
I've never seen it in watercolor books.
Yeah, so it comes with experience also.
Really, yes.
These decisions about what technique to use and things like that.
Mm.
Kristen Lapin asks, how long would it take you to do a postcard? Probably very
Postcards.
quick.
Yes, that's what I love about watercolor. In the first place, it's portability. You can move around the world literally with this set. And look what I did. These are 1981. These are paintings of Baguio again on Japanese handmade paper. Can you see the postmark here? They were really made to be
Yes.
used as postcard. So this is just like a matter of like 1 minute maybe. Uh, Parang instant painting siya. Painting while you wait, I call it. Waiting for it to dry. So talagang, ito yung sinasabi ko, the intimacy of watercolor. It's just you and that piece of paper. Lalo na kung ganun kaliit, and then you work this way. Ganyan, ganyan, ganyan. Dapat bilis. Para bang naka-time-lapse ka. Mabilis lang to. Kasi again, I was telling you, I mentioned earlier, it's race against time. You have to talagang run after literally. Nahabol mo yung pagkabasa ng papel. Pag natuyo na yan, then you wet it again. It does not look as spontaneous. Look how can you wait? There, can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, and then this other one. So very small, 3 by 5.5, or 3.5 by 5 inches. Like I do. Okay, so again, this is another one. 1980, Naples, Italy, the Bay of Naples. Postcard size.
Oh,
I
beautiful.
actually cut from a larger sheet. So capturing the mood of that, it's nearing sunset. And I did that in situ. I mean, on the actual, in a way, I would say this would be the equivalent of the urban sketchers nowadays.
Yes.
Diba meron pang ganon? Nag-sketch sila outdoors in the actual place.
Yeah.
So ito yung nagawa ko in my watercolor book.
So you like working with postcard size sheets of
Well,
paper? I guess it's
when
it's
traveling.
fast, portable. Yeah. When you travel. Yeah. Okay. Barbie Javier asks, where do you get your inspiration?
From nature.
Okay.
God, from high above.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, nature nga, no? That beautiful sunset or the feeling of after the rain. You look out the window from your room. I mean, that's the feeling of, I don't know if it's like, it's almost melancholy, like, ganon, or wishing it could last forever, yung ganon na feeling. So in my own way, I'm capturing that very ephemeral thing.
Yeah.
For posterity, capturing it on paint in a painting. I guess that is my objective.
Yeah.
I will not say it's a message or what, but
Yeah.
it's
your
a feel
objective.
good thing. It's a feel good thing.
Yeah. Okay. Larry Dianco says, she's asking, I guess, you must need separate sets of brushes for wet and dry brush techniques. Do you need separate types of brushes? No?
You've
Okay.
seen in my demo, I have a lineup of paintings. You should have them ready at any given time, meaning fine pointed, flat, rounded, small, big, and all that. For dry, not really. Basically, it's the same. It's just that when you say dry, the paper is dry, not the paint itself. You still have to wet the paint to be able to apply it. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the thing there. You have to have a good range of different sizes and shapes.
So just have a good range of brushes and experiment with them using both techniques. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, do you paint, an anonymous attendee asked, do you paint Baguio from photos or from actual? So a plein air, or do you also take photographs? Do you combine both?
Both. Yeah. So in the end, my early works were paint. Well, you cannot do large scale paint.
Sige. Wait, I can't talk to you now. Thank you for this, Claude. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm being interrupted here at home. Thank you for this, Claude. Just saw it when I woke up and registered right away. This is Buchi Peña. Watercolor is really a challenging medium, especially from an oil-based background artist. I would like to try to do more wet-on-wet landscapes when this pandemic is over. You are inspiring. Oh, thank you, Art Fair. So it's a message. Thank you very much.
Thank you too for that message. Why do you have to wait for the pandemic? Remember, I mean, as an artist, when the pandemic first broke out, and then they're asking everybody to work from home, what are they talking about? I said, it's like, I've been working from home ever since. I'm from day one. So, I mean, this is nothing new to me. And for me, this was a good chance. I've never been so prolific in my life, meaning the past 2 years of the pandemic, I mean, including now, no? Talagang, basically, you're hold in your house. So, wala kaming staff ngayon for the restaurant, wala for the this and that. So talagang I felt so focused and so ano, I had all the time. Of course, it's broken by I have to do first the chores. I take out the garbage. I fold the laundry that my wife washed. Yung ganon. So after doing the chores at home, you're so free to do whatever you want. I mean, don't wait for the pandemic. I mean, that's an excuse.
Okay.
Don't procrastinate. Talagang do it now. Just do it.
Okay. Another question from Anonymous. Is there any way to make the colors brighter and look more pigmented? Sometimes they fade and I'm not sure how to remedy that.
If sometimes your colors fade, that means it's a poor quality paint in the first place. You would see all the brand, you buy the branded ones. And
Okay.
they are what they call fast color fast, I think. Color fast meaning permanent. So if you want a deeper, okay, just red, for example, there's the cadmium red, light cadmium red, deep cadmium red, the medium. So if you want the intensity, you buy the specific paint. It's not just that you're using a red, a regular red, and then you apply more of it. Then it no longer becomes aquarelle, meaning the transparency of the watercolor. Magiging opaque yun.
Mm.
So, remember, watercolor literally, well, it's translated, it's called aquarelle, aquarello, aquarelle in French, aquarello in Spanish and Italian. So, meaning literally, it's water-based, no? But you're showing the transparency of the paint. Talagang very, very thin. So, pag nag-fade, ito, ano na, 1980 na to, 1981. So, I kept this in an album. Maybe, nag-fade yung ano mo, you hang it facing the window na may sunlight.
Yes, I think that's another way to preserve it from
Yes.
fading is to keep it away from light.
Sunlight. Direct sunlight.
Daylight, yeah, direct sunlight. Be very careful.
You hang it on a wall opposite the window, meaning, or yeah, facing your wall, the interior of the house.
Yeah. Okay. Ravi Suniko asks, have you tried using water brushes wherein the water is stored in the brush barrel itself? If so, how do you find them?
It's so hard to find them. I can send you mine that I haven't used. I bought.
Okay.
These are convenient brushes. Where are they? They're like pens in the pen shape. They're like plastic tubes with bear me a few seconds. 1, 2, 3. Okay. See, I have everything handy here in my. I know where my studio is chaotic. Here, are you referring to this, Ravi? So you put water there.
Yeah.
So colored water na yon. Tapos actually paganda to pang calligraphy eh. You don't have to dip and every now and then palagi.
Yeah.
Tuloy-tuloy. So I haven't used this. I bought them 5 years ago. So and these are good for traveling. You don't have to look for to mix masking marker. Okay, so yeah.
Okay.
You message me later, private message.
Or
Dalawa lang yan, ha?
Naka-free watercolor brush ka. Anyway, Claude, thank you for sharing your techniques. Can you also advise on how we can store or archive our watercolor paintings so they last for a long time? Well, one way nga is to keep them out of direct sunlight, right?
Yes. Yeah.
How do you store your works? Like if they're, they're not framed?
Okay, can you give me like 5 seconds? 5,
Okay.
4, 3, 2, 1. Wait. Wala. Saan ako napunta yun?
Oh dear. Okay.
Okay, wait.
Come back, Claude.
Wait. Itoya. Okay, you can buy this online.
Okay.
I bought them in Amazon. They're actually from Japan, Tokyo. There's this famous brand of art materials. It's actually the name of the store, Itoya. Is
Mhm.
anybody familiar with that? You go to Tokyo, the the main branch, like 7 floors of a building dedicated to arts and crafts. There's one floor only paints or brushes, then another one for stationaries, another one for camping out or something. So here it is. So you see this. Uh, can you? Are we on the reverse?
No, it's
It's,
correct, I think.
it's
Oh,
correct.
yeah,
So
just
this,
put it close to the camera.
yeah, it's archival,
Mhm.
acid-free, plastic and paper inside. It's an
Mhm.
album. So if you don't want to hang, I mean, of course, you cannot hang everything of your works, right? So this is my album of the
Okay.
watercolor postcards. So here, so it's archival,
Yeah.
and these paintings have been kept in an album. They were painted in 1979, 80. So
Yeah.
that makes them what, 41 years. So keep
Yeah.
them in an album.
Mm-mm.
Locally, you can buy the plastic album
Yeah.
usually, and
How
then make sure, yeah.
how about if it's on a large format piece of paper? How would you keep that?
Uh, well, frame it, but they mainly make sure that your framer knows about acid-free
Yeah.
backing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you imagine like 40 years ago, if you have something framed by a professional commercial framer,
Mm-hmm.
they would glue it on plywood. Imagine that, or
Mm.
tape it against a
Yes.
plywood, and
Yeah.
that's so acidic. Like
Yeah.
eventually, your paper turns yellowish
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of the acidity that has transferred to your paper. So the
Yeah.
thing is, nowadays you buy the foam board. There's an acid-free foam board that you can
Mm.
buy in National Bookstore.
Mm.
I bought there. I just buy there. I don't know where the wholesale is, but
It's
you don't.
acid free, the foam board.
Acid-free foam
There's
board.
such a thing. Okay.
Yes. So your foam board can be your backing for the frame, or you can place the foam board on the plywood before the painting.
But how
You
about if it's loose and they don't want to frame it, you
can put
know?
it in an album.
Okay. Or can it be in a drawer between the foam board, two acid-free foam
Can be
board?
if you have that the floor plan drawer. I mean,
Oo.
big paper drawer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because Mav Rufino is also asking something similar. How do you prevent
So,
mold and mildew?
yeah, mildew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that experience. Mm, even my unused paper for like 20 years. They've
Mm.
actually gotten foxing, these
Yeah.
dots. Well, uh, I guess when I searched the internet, the foxing in itself is not destructive. It just looks ugly.
Yes.
So I don't know. Well, I placed them in a drawer lined with. Remember, the bottom of the drawer could be plywood, or if it's a metal drawer, metal. This. I mean, you sacrifice a few pieces of your watercolor papers. I mean,
Mm.
at least the bottom and then the
Barrier.
top
Put a barrier, in other words,
barrier.
between
Yeah,
the metal or the
yeah.
wood.
You can use cartolina
Mm.
for the barrier, and you line your drawer with cartolina,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
then maybe in between. I mean, you can have the tissue paper to at
Okay.
least this will absorb the moisture.
Yeah. Okay, a few more questions because we have limited time. Karen Villanueva, hi Cloud. Greetings
Karen
from
Villanueva,
California. After you put
California.
after you put water on the paper, how do you know or decide where to start laying down the color? For example, in the Santo watercolor, I think of the angel, where did you start?
That's what I've been saying all along. Instinctively. through experience. You have to see, you have to feel when to apply it. You wet it. If it's too much water, it's still too wet, the water will just spread out. So talagang, again, experiment. There's no surefire formula. Even if I mention like X amount of seconds to dry it, let it dry. Just wet it, and maybe initially just wet it enough. Do not make a pool of water. Don't do that. Remember in the Taal volcano eruption, I had to wait like five minutes. So we cut the segment, and then because if there was too much water, but in effect, I like that pool of water because that created the movement of the it's almost like a cyclone in the sky. So through experience, you will know. It will tell you para bang may bubulong. Now, do it now. Oh no, don't do it yet. Don't do it yet. Still wet.
Yeah. Okay, another anonymous question. You said you took up architecture. Did you ever practice it? And what was your style like?
In a way, I practice it for myself. I designed my own house, Baledutong, and I did a lot of, being an artist, what is to stop you from taking, I mean, para bang, kung tutusin, I mean, masama man pakinggan, but I would, a lot of people describe me as like the jack of all trades. As an artist, what is to stop you from like even if somebody asked me, can you design me a dog house? Sure, he's the one paying. I mean, I'm basically make it a nice one, but give it your all. So the thing is, I designed interior of several restaurants, working with a certified licensed interior designer or architect or even engineer or contractor. Basically, what's important there is the concept. So as an artist, I did a lot of things and everything and all that. So I practice it, yes, but I am not a licensed architect. I did not take the board.
Yeah.
I must say, I have to add that I am qualified as an artist, meaning I did a lot of designs more than my classmates who took up the board because they ventured into business or into whatever that they never practiced. So they are architects, but then maybe their heart was not into it. Yun sa akin, the art is in the art. Okay, so
okay.
I hope that answers your question. Well, by the way, okay, so I took up architecture. I took up architecture courses. The College of Architecture considers me as an alumnus. I am in their, as a matter of fact, I am one of their pambato, meaning every time there's a fundraising thing or a big event coming, I'm part of the whatever organizing.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, I also took up economic courses. I actually ended up with an AB degree with economics. But how did I mix the two? The thing is, what is important, it gave me a well-rounded education. If I have to go through it again, I will do it. Even the fact that my father put his foot down by saying, don't take up fine arts because you'll go hungry. I took the challenge by proving to him. If not for that, maybe I took up fine arts. Even at that time, I was seeing Abe Cruz. He was mentoring me. Even if you finish fine arts, sabi niya, may diploma ka nga dyan, sabi niya. Ang sinabi sa akin, which I could not forget until this day, you have to unlearn what you learn in school. Yung sinabi niya, I'm not discouraging everyone from taking college, from taking your degree, whatever. Basta keep on, I mean, live your life. If that is where your heart leads you, do it. Talagang gano'n. And then you have to keep a day job na lang to be practical.
Okay. Okay, I have to run through just the last few, Cloud, because
Yes,
we're running out of time.
yes.
From Connie Ladrillo, just a comment. Thank you, Claude Tayag. This is the best talk or event I've seen so far. From Connie
Oh,
Ladrillo.
thank you. Thank you
Okay.
for the art fair organizers.
Anyway, does Tito Cloud have any sites or social media where he posts his works? I'd love to see more of them. So perhaps your FB page?
Wala nga. I've
Wala.
stopped I'm trying to develop my website pa. I mean, I feel I'm swamped with work. I mean, I want to do more paintings pa. Pero bang for me if I break the momentum and to develop my website, uh sayang. I'm saying yung panahon, meaning I'd rather be on the create. I mean, on the I have to do what I have to do. Yung painting. Yeah.
Okay. We have to wrap up now, but I'm going
Yes.
to wrap up with the last comment from Pao Ronquillo. It's my first time to attend the art fair, and I'd like to say thank you so much to the team. You're welcome. Thank you. And to Kuya Cloud, I hope you
Yes.
allow me to
Kuya
call you
Cloud.
Kuya Hehe,
Yes.
for inspiring me to go back to creating art. So I think that's a very nice way to end this session, that
Yes.
you've
Very nice of you.
inspired a lot of people. We've had so many questions, and you didn't only talk about the wet on wet watercolor technique, but also about, what inspires you, about how your art developed, and basically your life as an artist. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Cloud. Is there anything you want
Thank
to
you.
say before we go?
I think I said it. I've said it all. Otherwise, you have to give me another hour.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Cloud. And
Thank you, Lisa.
thank you,
Thank you for the
everybody,
art fair
for
team.
attending our session today. Uh, please check our art fair website for more upcoming events in the fair. And may I have a screenshot, please, with you, Claude? This is just part of our documentation.
Yeah, I'm
So
ready.
just smile for the camera. Who's taking it?
I will. Ready?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating in our Open Studios program today. And it's so great to have all your questions, and to have you respond to Cloud's presentation. So as I said, please check the Art Fair website for more events in the fair. And I'd like to thank again our education partners, that is the Ateneo Art Gallery, the Museum Foundation of the Philippines, and Art Review. Our upcoming talk, the next one, this evening at 6 p.m., we will be having an art historian, Anna Wick. She'll be speaking from Madrid to tell us more about Fernando Sobel and the Museo de Arte Abstracto Español in Cuenca. This is the abstract art museum he established in Spain, which was a groundbreaking institution for its time. So I hope to see you there. Again, thank you, everybody. Good morning.